My wife looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're on the couch until you apologize for not buying me that bag." I shrugged and told her, "All right, sure." A few hours later, after she left to go clubbing and didn't come home until late, I called a moving crew. By the time she returned, the place was empty, and so was the driveway. I'm 36M, and I moved out 3 days ago. She still has no idea, mostly because she hasn't bothered coming home. Let me rewind. Last week we were out shopping together. We've been married 6 years, together 9, and it's been bumpy lately. Constant arguments about money, me working long hours, her feeling ignored, the usual married life friction. We walked past this high-end store and she stopped hard, staring at a $3,200 handbag like it was calling her name. "I want that," she said. I told her it looked nice, trying to be supportive. "No, I want you to buy it for me today." I laughed, assuming she was joking. We're on a strict budget, saving for a down payment because we rent, and that bag alone was half of our monthly savings plan, something we both agreed on. I said, "Babe, it's not in the budget. Maybe for your birthday." Apparently, that was the wrong answer. The ride home was silent, the kind of silence that feels like a warning. That night, she brought it up again, saying her friend's husband bought her the same designer bag, and that I clearly didn't value her. If I loved her, I'd want her to have nice things. I reminded her we're trying to build a future, and blowing $3,200 on a purse doesn't make sense. "Other husbands buy their wives expensive gifts," she snapped. "Other husbands might have different finances," I said. That's when she hit me with, "You're on the couch until you apologize and buy me that bag." I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You heard me," she insisted. "The couch until you stop being cheap." I'm not cheap. I earn a solid income, around $78,000 a year as an electrician. She works part-time at a boutique, maybe brings in $22,000. We split expenses proportionally because she said it was fair, and I agreed. But dropping $3,200 on a bag while we're trying to save? Not happening. So I said, "Okay, the couch it is." She looked stunned, probably expecting me to fold. Instead, I grabbed a pillow and blanket and went to sleep in the living room. Next morning, she barely said 2 words to me. I went to work like normal, came home, and she was getting dressed to go out. "Where you headed?" I asked. "Out. Since my husband doesn't appreciate me, maybe someone else will." Big red flag, but I was too exhausted to react. "All right, enjoy," I said. She left around 8 p.m. At 9 p.m., I made the call. My buddy who owns a moving company owed me for rewiring his house, so I asked if he could help me move tonight. "Tonight? Right now?" he said. I told him the situation. He cracked up and said he was on his way. By 10 p.m., he and his crew were loading everything. And here's the kicker. The rental house is in my name only. She only moved in after we got married. The lease had always been under my name, and most of the furniture was stuff I already owned or things I bought before we tied the knot. The TV, the couch she sentenced me to, the bed, the dining table, pretty much everything was mine. So we packed up everything that belonged to me. It took about 3 hours. I left her with her clothes, her car, a few kitchen gifts that were hers, and the old air mattress from the garage. Her car stayed in the driveway. I took my truck and filled it with my tools, work equipment, and personal things. By around 1:30 a.m., the place was bare except for her belongings and that lonely air mattress sitting in the middle of the living room. I placed the keys on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "Since I'm already sleeping on the couch, I'm taking it with me. Lease ends in 30 days. Good luck with the bag." Then I drove everything to my buddy's storage unit, unloaded it all, and headed to my mom's house. She has a guest room and told me I could stay as long as needed. Around 2 a.m., my wife texted saying she'd be out late with friends. I replied, "Don't worry about me." She had no idea what I'd done. 3 days passed. She stayed at her friend's place and kept texting me, insisting I apologize. I still didn't tell her I'd moved out. I was waiting for the moment she finally went home. Either this was genius or the stupidest move of my life. Time would tell. 5 days later, she found out. I got a call at 6 a.m. from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, all I heard was straight-up screaming and eventually realized it was her. "Where is everything? Where is my furniture? Did you rob the house?" she shrieked. I stayed calm and told her I took my own property. "You can't do that! That's theft!" she yelled. I reminded her everything was mine from before the marriage and that the lease was in my name. I had every right to remove my possessions when I moved out. "You didn't move out!" she screamed. "Yes, I did," I said. "You said I'd be on the couch until I apologized and bought you a $3,200 bag. I'm not doing either, so I left." She went quiet before calling me insane, claiming I overreacted to one night on the couch. I reminded her it wasn't one night. It was until I bowed down to her demands. She told me to return immediately with the furniture. I told her her belongings were still there: clothes, car, kitchen stuff, and the air mattress, so she wasn't left with nothing. She said she couldn't live like that. I told her she might need to figure something out since the lease ends in 25 days anyway. She hung up and immediately called back, but I ignored her. Then the texts started. Pages of insults, threats to call the police, accusations of abandonment, and claims that I was abusive for leaving. I screenshotted everything and sent it to my buddy who works as a paralegal. He told me to keep gathering evidence. Later that afternoon, her mom called, furious, demanding to know how I could do this to her daughter. I explained exactly what happened, that my wife demanded a $3,200 bag and ordered me to the couch until I complied. I removed myself instead. Her mom said I abandoned her and that she could sue me. For what? Taking my own furniture from a lease under my name? She insisted I ruined her daughter's life. I told her my wife still had her clothes, her job, and her car, and she'd be fine. She called it financial abuse. I hung up and blocked her too. 2 days later, I got a message from my wife's best friend. That was another ride. Her best friend messaged me saying, "You know she's telling everyone you completely snapped, right? Like you had some mental episode and wrecked the house." I told her nothing was damaged. I simply took what was mine. She claimed my wife was telling people I stole everything and left her with nowhere to go. She wasn't homeless. She'd been crashing with friends for days. With the lease under my name, she still had nearly a month to decide what to do next. The friend threw a few insults my way before I blocked her too. Then last night, my wife actually showed up at my mom's house. My mom answered the door and refused to let her in. I overheard everything from upstairs. My wife demanded to talk to me. Mom said I didn't want to speak with someone who was yelling and making threats. My wife snapped that if I didn't come back and fix everything, she'd file for divorce. My mom, bless her soul, said, "All right, I'll pass the message along," and shut the door right in her face. Then she came upstairs and told me my wife was threatening to file. I said, "Good, saves me the fee." She looked at me for a long time before realizing I truly meant it. I was done. The next morning, I was officially served. Her demands: half the value of all the furniture I took, alimony, half my retirement and her legal fees covered, plus threats of suing me for illegal eviction and stealing marital property. I booked a meeting with a divorce attorney for the next day, $300 just to sit down, but I needed real legal guidance. My paralegal buddy said her case was weak. Furniture bought before marriage, lease under my name. She left voluntarily. Still, I was stressed. It was clear this wouldn't be simple or cheap. For a moment, I wondered if moving out was too dramatic. But then I remembered the couch ultimatum over a $3,200 purse and her claims I didn't value her. She crossed a line, and this was the fallout. 3 weeks later, things went from bad to absolute nightmare. After the divorce papers, she burned everything down socially, not online. No, she went for my livelihood. She started calling my clients. Since we shared a phone plan, now changed, she got numbers from my call history, told them I was mentally unstable and unsafe to work with. I run a small electrical business. My clients are everything. 3 of them reached out in concern. I explained briefly that my wife, soon-to-be ex, was spreading lies during our divorce. 2 stayed with me. 1 canceled a $6,000 job. That one hit hard. Her mom then began showing up repeatedly at my mom's house. We called the police twice. The second time, officers warned her for harassment, and we haven't seen her since. My wife also filed a police report accusing me of stealing her belongings. 2 officers came by to talk. I showed them the lease in my name, receipts for my furniture from before we married, pictures of my setup before she ever moved in. Thank God I save everything digitally, and the texts where she ordered me to the couch. They said it looked like a civil issue, not a crime, and recommended I let the divorce attorneys handle it. Case closed. After the consultation with the divorce lawyer, I hired her. $3,500 retainer. She reviewed everything and said my ex had almost no case regarding the furniture. I owned it beforehand and could prove it. The illegal eviction claim made no sense because my wife left voluntarily. The theft claim was baseless for the same reasons. The only complication was that our state has weird marital property rules where she might argue for some use value of items during marriage. Also, alimony was possible. 6 years married, huge income gap. I might owe temporary support. My lawyer told me 3 things. Let the lease run out. We had about 15 days left. Don't speak to my wife directly at all, and offer a clean settlement to wrap this up fast. So we put an $8,000 settlement offer on the table. She kept the car. One I helped finish paying off last year, roughly $4,200 still owed, but now officially all hers. And I agreed to take a financial hit on my retirement split in exchange for dropping alimony entirely. That was supposed to be the clean ending. Her attorney rejected it immediately and countered with $25,000, 2 years of alimony at $800 a month, plus her legal fees. My lawyer didn't even blink, told me we'd see them in court. Meanwhile, the lease finally expired. The landlord walked through the place, found an abandoned air mattress, a few kitchen items, and a trashed living room. He called me asking what happened. I told him divorce happened. My furniture was mine. She'd been staying with friends, and the lease was over. He kept the security deposit because of the mess. Fair enough. He asked where to send the refund paperwork for her portion, and I gave him her mom's address. No longer my problem. 2 days later, she called from yet another new number. I answered out of exhaustion more than anything. I told her all conversations go through lawyers. She insisted we talk now. She claimed everything was spiraling. I reminded her it spiraled the moment she started harassing my clients and filing bogus police reports. She insisted the report wasn't false because I stole her furniture. I reminded her the items she owned were still there and that what I took was mine. She said she couldn't afford a lawyer, didn't know how she'd survive, and accused me of ruining her life. I told her she ruined her own life when she demanded a $3,200 purse, kicked me to the couch, and chose to party instead of communicate. She suddenly wanted to reconcile. I told her she didn't want reconciliation. She wanted money. She agreed to take the $8,000 offer after all. I told her that offer died the moment she rejected it. My new offer, $5,000, she keeps the car, I keep my retirement, and we walk away. She called it unfair. I told her court would cost her far more. She hung up. 2 hours later, her lawyer contacted mine. They accepted the $5,000 deal. Papers were signed yesterday. Divorce final in about 60 days. My total cost, $5,000 settlement, around $4,800 in attorney bills, the $2,100 security deposit I'll never see again, and the $6,000 job I lost thanks to her calls, roughly $18,000 just to be done. But no alimony, no long-term payments, no more chaos. Final update. 2 months later, the divorce finalized 3 weeks ago without any additional complications. She got her $5,000, the car, and half of our tiny joint savings, $400. I kept my retirement, my tools, my truck, and all my furniture. Whatever she left behind in the rental was tossed by the landlord. When all the math was done, I spent about $19,000 total in fallout. Could it have been worse? Absolutely. My lawyer said trial would have drained at least another $15,000 and possibly cost me far more in asset division. Settling was the smart move. My ex moved in with her mom, confirmed by a lovely message from her mother telling me I ruined her daughter's life and would never find someone as amazing again. Blocked. I also heard she's telling everyone I had a breakdown and abandoned her over a purse, that she escaped a mentally unstable husband. People close to me know that's garbage. Anyone else can believe whatever story she spins. I've got my own place now. A small one-bedroom, nothing fancy, but fully mine. My furniture's there, work has stabilized, and I've already replaced the client I lost. I've thought a lot about everything that happened. Some say I acted rashly, that packing up in the middle of the night over a luxury handbag ultimatum was dramatic. Maybe on the surface it looks that way. But it was never about the bag. It was about the disrespect, the entitlement, the expectation that I should apologize and blow money we didn't have simply because other husbands do it. Being sent to the couch in my own house over a simple budget talk was really the beginning of the end. Her choosing nights out at clubs instead of sitting down to fix what was breaking between us only made it clearer. The purse situation wasn't the real issue. It was just the final push. Our marriage had been fading long before that, and I kept pretending it wasn't. Do I regret the way I responded? Honestly, no. I safeguarded what I had, walked away without ruining myself financially, and refused to be guilt-tripped into buying something way outside my means. Could I have approached things differently? Sure. Maybe I should have tried counseling or sat down for a serious talk, but at that point I was exhausted from fights, pressure, and constantly feeling inadequate. That bag was just another symptom of a relationship that had already run its course. As for her, last I heard she's working full-time now because she has her own bills to cover while staying at her mom's. And that friend with the pricey bag? Her husband put it on credit, and now they're drowning in debt. Ironic, really. Me? I'm hanging in there. Not amazing, not miserable, just learning to live alone again, getting used to a smaller apartment, figuring out divorced life at 36. I landed a new client recently, an older couple redoing their kitchen. The wife asked if I was married, and when I told her I was newly divorced, she said, "Good for you. No point staying where you're unhappy." She wasn't wrong. Life's way too short to be exiled to your own couch because your partner cares more about a designer accessory than your marriage. Sometimes the garbage takes itself out. Sometimes you have to drag it to the curb yourself. Either way, the place feels cleaner afterward. That $3,200 purse is probably still sitting on a showroom shelf somewhere. She never got it, and I never paid for it. And truthfully, I don't miss her enough to second-guess my choice, not for a moment. Now I sleep in my own bed, in my own space, with my peace intact. That's worth more than any luxury bag could ever offer.